Hello,
Hello.
and welcome to Planet Marzipan, the Fish and Marillion podcast. I'm Mezza, and here's my mate.
Craig Houston.
Hello, and welcome to Planet Marzipan. I'm Mezza, I'm here with my good friend.
Hey, Craig.
And it is the long-lost return of the Planet Marzipan Book Club. We welcome an author, a published author, and you are a published author, and fellow Marillion fan. We welcome back Felicity Pryke.
Hello.
Hi, Felicity.
Self-published. Yes.
You're
hello.
published. That's that. You
It
don't
is.
Need, you don't need the self in front of it.
I know.
You're
It's
available
exciting.
in book form. And Felicity's here to talk about her book that was published last year. It's called Walk the Walk. And she's invited some of the key players in the book to join us. So we welcome to Planet Marzipan, Claire Wright.
Hello.
Hi, Claire. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hope you all are too.
Good. Thank you. Nice to see you. And we welcome the Invisible Man, aka Mr. Lee Fuller.
I've only joined in because this isn't being filmed in the south.
Yes. Never
We're all
known the
northerners here.
controversial, Lee. Yeah.
Yes, the book did come out last year, and we have been trying to get this organised for how long, Flick?
It came out in August, so
Yeah,
we're
so
about
we-
6 months in.
Yeah, we've been trying to get this like corralled for a long time, so we're finally here, sorted.
Okay. So do you want to just talk a little bit? I mean, you've been on the pod before, so for
Mhm.
anybody who's not heard any episodes that you've been on, do you want to briefly talk about your Marillion fandom and how you know these guys? And
Yeah, I mean, it kind of all comes together into the book as well. So I first got into Marillion because my dad was into Marillion when I was a child. Got more into them, I guess, when H joined, and got really into them around Anorak time. I think there were three things that all came together. It was the pre-order for Anorak, which I think made us all feel quite engaged with the band. It was the online forum, the good old MOLF, which is where I met Claire. And actually, Claire's probably the person I've known, one of the people I've known the longest out of all the Marillion fans. I think the first people I met, we had a meeting of minds in London in 2003, 2000, was it end of 2002, 2003 perhaps?
I think actually the first time I met you was at Bex's in Wakefield,
Oh,
but I might have met you online before that.
Definitely online. And then it was the conventions. So Pontin's convention was the other thing that really started roping me into me and my sister as well.
what was your username on the MOLF?
Oh, I don't know if I dare say.
I think you should.
I was known as IC Genie, and I always posted in purple, and that's how people knew who I was. And there are still actually the aforementioned Bex still calls me Genie. There's still one or two people who still call me Genie. So yeah, that's when I really got into the band, and then kind of life happens and you drift away, you drift back. And it's one of the things I talk about in the book is how the White Rose Tavern came together, which was an online pub which started at the beginning of lockdown. And we met on every Friday night, and Lee Fuller was part of that. So that's where I really got to know Lee and quite a few other people as well. It was obviously when Marillion weren't doing anything, we ran out of Marillion things to talk about. So we started talking
What an absurd notion that is.
I
We're
know,
running out of
yeah.
Marillion things to talk about. We're still eking it out.
Yeah, but you've got new things to talk about. There was nothing new to talk about.
There is that. Yeah.
So we actually started to talk about ourselves. a little bit, and our lives and our histories, and getting to know each other from that point of view. So in a way, Claire and Lee kind of bookend the friendships that I've made so far through Marillion. You know, Claire being in those very early days and Lee being a lot more recent, and the group that I've really gelled with more recently.
Okay. What's the book about, Walk the Walk?
So in 2018, I moved into my house in Chorley, and it's about a minute's walk away from the Leeds Liverpool canal. And so I used to go walking on the canal quite often, and especially again in lockdown, we were all going for walks, weren't we, in lockdown, because you couldn't do anything else.
Lots of it, yeah.
So I'd walked 3 miles south and I'd walked 4 miles north, and I was starting to get curious about what the other 120 miles might look like, and went through various iterations of walking it. You know, should I drive to a bit, walk a section, and then tick it off gradually? And I think it was actually me and Lee had many conversations about how many days you could walk it in. I think I started off thinking I could do it in 2 weeks. And then you realise you've got to carry 2 weeks worth of stuff with you, and you've got to book 2 weeks worth of hotel rooms and things like that. So one of the things that determined the length of the walk was that Lee lives on the canal as well, up in near Burnley, and that's 26 miles between us along the canal. So that became either I do that in 1 day or I split it into 2 days. And when I decided to do that in 1 day, I don't know what made me think, I've walked 26 miles in a day before, I can do that for 6 consecutive days.
Yeah, you're talking a week's worth of marathons, essentially, aren't you?
Yeah. And you see really ultra fit people, you know, you see Eddie Izzard running a marathon a day for a month, and you think, oh, well, walking a marathon a day for a week can't be that difficult, surely. So yeah, I booked up the places, and we had 6 days. So the challenge was to walk 127 miles in 6 days.
Yeah.
And then once I'd done it, I've written for a long time. I write blogs, and I've written travel blogs for 20 odd years. And so I thought, well, let's write a blog about this. And as I started writing it, I thought, oh, this is going to be quite long. I might be able to eke it out to a book.
So did you invent blogging then?
I didn't know, but I did have it would have been about 2007 I was first blogging. So yeah, nearly 20 years that I've been blogging, and that blog is still there, and it's actually is ICGenie. ICGenie.blogspot, I think, is my old blog.
Wow.
So it's all my old thoughts are out there as well.
Have you ever revisited those?
I do actually, and I still use it. So I've just come back from a trip to India, and I'm writing up the diary from that, and I'm writing that on that blog at the moment. So I think I will link it into my website as well, which I'm sure Craig will put on the notes for everyone.
Craig doesn't do the notes, but I'll put it in the notes. Yeah.
Sorry, I
It's all right.
Craig to a superior position.
Oh no, he's Trevor Horn. He's the Trevor Horn of the podcast. Is Craig.
You're the admin.
Yeah, basically a clean up. Yeah. You've lost me thread now.
Yeah, don't look behind the curtain, whatever you do.
No, don't. It's all for sure.
It's all nice. It is. It's all nice.
Yeah. So when I came to writing the book, I thought, well, I would actually, in the end, the walk, while it was me doing it on my own, it did become a collaborative experience. So it became quite important to me to make the book quite collaborative as well. So Claire and Lee both contributed chapters about their part in the walk. And we have a couple of contributions as well from benefactors of the charity that I ended up raising money for as well.
It's quite interesting to get the two different angles on those sections of the walk. You've obviously got your view, and then Lee and Claire's view of that section of the walk as well.
Yeah, I thought when I read, especially Lee's, I thought, should I go back and correct some of mine or amend it? Those, like you say, those sometimes quite contrary views. But actually, I think, like you say, it's interesting to see.
It is. It's just a different perception, isn't it? And
yeah.
Lee's is split into two parts, so it's a.
Well, he was helping out for 2 days. So.
True.
I only walked on one of them though.
Yes, he was Chief Sherpa.
Yes, as it says on the screen here, Sherpa and Chef.
Sherpa and Chef.
I think the chefing was as important as the Sherpa-ing.
We'll come on to that.
We will.
The chapters in the book have Marillion lyric titles.
Yeah, it felt a bit cheesy to do it, actually, in a way, and almost a bit of a cheat to steal someone else's words, but some of them felt so obvious, and it's a really resonant thing about Marillion and the lyrics. I know some people are more music lovers with Marillion, aren't they? And some people are more lyric lovers. There are some people for whom the words are not relevant. But for me, these are words that run through my veins. They live in my brain. They are part of my vernacular. I will come out with these words randomly because they're just in me. And I mean, I think a lot of people, and I suspect a lot of fans can relate to that. The really obvious example being when someone dies, and we all just instinctively say, no one leaves you when they live in your heart and mind, right?
Yeah.
So many of these words just live in us. So when I was writing the book, there were some of the chapters, it felt really obvious what lyric would go with them. And I didn't want to just use the title. I wanted to include the lyric that I was referring to.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 lines, isn't there, usually after the title?
Yeah, because it is the specific words that are relevant.
Yeah. You've talked about the charity that you did this walk for. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So my other community that I'm very much involved with is the IATQB community. So IATQB stands for I Am the Queen Bee, and it was started by an amazing person called Dani Wallace. Dani is a public speaking coach. She is my public speaking coach, so I'm hoping I'm representing her well on the podcast.
I think she'd be very proud. So
she's also an event producer, so I'm involved in an event which is taking place in a couple of weeks according to recording, but a few weeks ago according to release. So it will have just happened, called the Big Festoon. And part of her thing is to be very inclusive, to raise up marginalised voices. But also she was someone who suffered domestic abuse. She found herself homeless. And she said if she ever got herself out of that, she would always provide that platform for people who've been in a similar situation. And between her and her sister Gemma, they created the FlyAnyway Foundation, which provides, it's actually on a bit of a hiatus at the moment, I believe, but it provided grants and support for people who'd been through domestic abuse, who'd got themselves some stability and dealt with the trauma, but then wanted to build their own businesses. So she provided the network and the resources. And I've met so many people in that community who've been amazing. Joe Swan for Chocolate PR, who helped me get public relations, helped me get on the radio and get into newspapers. G. Sabini Roberts, who gave me all the advice on self-publishing a book. These are all people who are in the thank you credits, and they're all people who my life would be very different without these people being in my life. And Dani Wallace in particular, who's just an incredible human being, what she's achieved.
I mean, this Big Festoon this year, it's gone really, really big. It's arena size.
We are at
is it the co-op, is it, or is it the
the AO
AO
arena?
yeah.
We're not quite filling it. We're up to, I think, about 2,500-3,000 people, but the last one was 800 people, so it's a big jump. The aim is to scale it to 10,000 people eventually. So an event that started with 20 of her friends just turning up to hear her talk. And that's basically what Dani said. She was struggling to get booked as a public speaker, and she said, well, I'll create my own event then.
And she wrote the foreword for your book for you?
She did. It was the last thing to come into the book. And it felt really complete at that point, you know, and what she wrote, bear in mind she hadn't read the book before she wrote it. It shows how good she is with words.
I think it speaks volumes about your relationship with her as well.
Yeah. I'm very proud I think we're both proud to call each other friends. So, but also to have that working relationship now, and her advising me on my own public speaking and, you know, my quest to be a public speaker myself as well. So
the charity that the money's gone to, because you've actually just posted that you've actually given them the first donation, haven't you, just recently?
I've donated to it's a different charity. So okay. Dani's sister Gemma is the CEO for a charity called Hope Prevails Preston, and that's a domestic abuse charity based in Preston. So that's who all the profits will be going to from all the sales of the book. So it's about £200 for last year, and I would like to give lots more this year.
Okay, well, we will tell folks where to find your book at the end of the pod. Going back to the walk, how did you prepare for it?
I didn't.
Okay, next question.
So, I mean, if you know, I kind of wrote a chapter about how unprepared I was.
Yeah. I mean, it was that's the. I know you planned it for, was it like for mid-September, just to try and get the best of the weather. And you
couldn't have picked a worse week.
I was going to say,
I really couldn't. Weather-wise, it was pretty awful.
Welcome to Yorkshire.
And actually, Yorkshire was worse than Lancashire, which was made me and Lee very happy, actually, in a way. The kind of, actually, it was the day crossing the border was the worst day. But yeah, I don't know why I didn't. I think there was a certain psychology to not really facing up to the difficulty of it by thinking, oh, it's just a bit of a walk. How difficult can it be? So I didn't really prepare things like I didn't make sure my waterproof jacket was really waterproof. I didn't think about waterproof trousers. You know, I just thought it's fine. I'll get wet and I'll get dry again. It'll be fine. So I didn't really plan. I had a half idea of starting at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'd never started at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I didn't plan food stops or anything like that. All I had planned was where I had to get to by the end of the day.
Yeah.
And the avoidance of trench foot with your permanently wet feet.
Honestly, I did take some photos of the state of my feet. And I remember on the fifth night, actually having a text conversation with Claire about feet, didn't we?
I think I probably still have that photo somewhere.
Yes, I did send you a photo, didn't I? Yeah, it was quite gruesome.
Yeah.
But aside from being one of the stops on the walk, Lee, how did you get involved in supporting Felicity with this?
Well, we were in the White Rose Tavern one night. We might have had a couple of drinks. And Fliss mentioned that she fancied doing it. And I foolishly said, oh, it's easy. I've done it 3 times in a kayak. I'm not taking the blame for the idea, but I certainly didn't put her off.
No.
And because I'd done it a few times myself, I sort of said, oh, well, yeah, if you get to there, then that's all right. And if you can get to there, that's all right. And then it kind of snowballed. And I think other people started joining the conversation. and saying, well, I'll do that bit with you. I'll do that bit with you. And then Felicity just put her foot down and said, no, I want to do it on my own.
Okay.
And then we kind of took the conversation offline a little bit and started talking about the logistics of it and bits and pieces and which bits I thought would be easy and etc. etc. And then came the idea that it'd be nice to kind of not have to spend all the money on hotels doing it, So then the days kind of got planned around where she knew she could stop.
Yeah.
And seeing as half the White Rose Tavern have stayed here for gigs and things like that, this was a natural point, and it was a good break as well. And obviously, I know the canal as well, so it just kind of went from there.
Sounds like you were the technical advisor, but then Felicity just said she didn't do any prep. So
yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I think we'll probably get on to the day when I walk with her later on, but I look at it the other way. If you walk somewhere where you've never been before, like up a mountain or whatever, if you go back down the same way, or if you revisit it, you spot the landmarks, and that makes it easier.
Yeah.
Does that? It's like, I don't know, when the Marillion weekends moved from Wolves to Leicester, as an example, the first day you're kind of trying to find your way from between all the different pubs down to De Montfort. And then the day after, you think, oh, yeah, it's just round that corner. And there's another pub just round this corner, etc., etc. And walking a decent distance is the same as well. And I know that when I left Felicity at, where was it, Riley Green or wherever it was, Felicity's mood kind of lifted then because she knew where she was. And she knew how many times that she'd done that stretch from there to her house.
yes.
So she didn't need the kind of moral support at that point and things. So it's kind of a balance. It's an adventure doing it on your own.
Yeah.
But there are definite advantages to sort of having an idea about what's coming up. And as mentioned previously, the weather was shocking on the main day that I was with Felicity. But it was all places where I knew.
Yeah, so you could say you had quite a definite idea of places where we could meet up, and I could have a decompress, or have a food collection.
I think each time you've met somebody that you knew, you can feel it in the way that you've written it, that the emotional lift that they've given you and the support that they've given you.
Yeah, it's one of the key themes, I guess, as a very independent Aquarian. I like to do things on my own, but
you catch fish.
It's one of the things, I guess, one of the real life learnings over the last few years is that just because it's a solo endeavor doesn't mean you have to do it on your own. And actually, we all get a lot further if we have support, and we get to the destination quicker or more comfortably if we have the support of others, and that goes for all parts of our lives.
I think you appreciate the value of a flask now, don't you? Especially when you're not expecting it.
Drank a lot of coffee on those 2 days.
Of differing quality.
Yeah, because I mean, when the 3 times that I'd done it, the first time I did it, it was kind of as a relay over 3 days, just doing it during the daylight. And then the second times I did it was as a kind of relay, but literally just switching over every 10 miles. So I did half of it, somebody else did half of it, but we did it as kind of a relay. And then the third time I did it straight through on my own. But you do need to refuel. And the feeling, the lift that you get when you go around the corner and you see a friend, you know, and you pull over just for a rest, and they whip out the flask and say, "Here's a bacon sandwich." You know, that they're the things that I knew Felicity would appreciate.
Yeah.
Not food motivated at all. And actually, that's one of the conversations Claire and I had, was I was struggling to eat. And that was one of the things you were telling me. It's a known thing for when you're really exerting yourself to actually not want to eat very much.
Yeah, your body almost can't do both things at the same time. It can't take on the fuel and process the fuel and do it. So often people will say the appetite goes, or the digestion side of it kind of goes. I'm remembering from when I've done the biggest walk I've done is the Yorkshire Three Peaks, and I remember that was a struggle about the third hill to actually want to have something to eat, but I needed it. So I could relate to what you were saying.
The other thing as well is if you stop for too long. So like if Felicity had left the towpath and gone to a cafe when she's 20 miles in on a day, it's really, really difficult to motivate yourself to get back on the walk. As well, because you start to seize up if you sit down for too long. You know, so having refreshments brought to you and nibbled as you're walking along, you know, it takes that out of the equation a little bit.
Yeah. Me and Sarah do quite a lot of like long walks, like coastal walks, like up here. And one of the dangerous things is if you stop, like we always stop after about 10 or so miles and have something decent to eat, and then you've got a couple of miles afterwards, and it's the motivation to get starting again after you've had something to eat. Your legs just start seized up. And for me, it's similar to what Felicity, you were saying. Your hip was giving you bother on the walk. I've never had bother with my hips unless I do a long walk. And then my left hip goes a bit wobbly, and it's the only other time it ever does.
Clara, do you plan to do part of the walk with Felicity, or was it kind of a spur of the moment thing?
Probably actually a bit of a spur of the moment. Like I said in the book, I can't always plan ahead what I'm going to do. I don't know how always I'm going to feel on the day because of the health condition that I've got. So I can't always commit to something physical like that. But I'd been kind of following Felicity's sort of journey through it. I've been really sort of inspired by the charity and that motivation. I think kind of when someone's got a goal and knows what they want to do and wants to achieve, that's quite inspiring. Plus the flip side of having done some walking, being outside, knowing the challenge that can have. And I think as well is everyone thinks canals are just flat. So you think, oh, it's 26 miles of just flat and it's fine. And, you know, as I said, I've done the Yorkshire Three Peaks. I've done the 26 miles with the hills. But actually, canals aren't flat because you've got to go over the bumps and everything else. And actually, just walking on the flat is hard enough as it is. So there was a sort of a few things. And so we'd almost kind of probably reconnected over this, because I think I was saying it's probably about 9 years since I'd actually seen Felicity in person. Probably.
Wow.
We'd obviously stepped back from gigs for other things and COVID and everything, and we just hadn't been in the sort of same place for a very long time. So it was nice to kind of connect over something that I felt I could help and support her with. And then as the week went on, and like Lee says, with the weather, and then knowing, or I thought at the time, her going to be on her own on that last day, it's like, it's often you get towards the last bit, and actually that's the worst bit. You know, your body's hurting the most. You've got to motivate yourself again for yet another day. So in that sense, it was a bit like, okay, what can I do to help my friend get over the line? And I think the other thing, like I said in the book, is we so nowadays are ruled by calendars, schedules, planning. Everything's planned to the nth degree. And actually, how many times do we do something spontaneous? And also spontaneous when it's about 80 miles away from where I live. But that was all part of like, actually, what can I do? And I don't work Fridays. So it was a bit like, I feel okay. The weather looked awful on that day. We were very lucky in the end that it didn't rain as much as it is.
Yeah.
But it did look like the forecast was going to be awful. And I was thinking, I just felt for Felicity on that last day when you're possibly feeling at the lowest and it's going to be another wet day and you're doing it all on your own. So it was one of those of like, okay, And it was one of those spur of the moments. It was the bit like where you want to reconnect with a friend. How can you help them? I'm free. Oh, sod it. Let's get over. And so I just picked a spot and hoped that I wouldn't get stuck in traffic. I would actually get there, and she would have already passed me because I know that area. I knew the other bits of the canal because I used to live in Bradford and go to Saltaire and Shipley, and I knew all that end. I don't know the other end as well. So it was a bit of one of these, let's hope all the stars align, which luckily they did.
I was going to say, thankfully they did, didn't they?
Were you waiting long before I turned up?
I think I'd only been there half an hour. So it was a close run thing because I was trying to work out the pace you were walking, where you were setting off from, and therefore where I could actually park. Because I said it's not an area I know particularly well. So it was one of those ones where I probably had only done about a quarter of an hour walk up the canal before I saw you. And I think it was one of those moments, like I said, it's probably 9 years since I'd seen Flick in person for such, for any length of time or any conversation, really.
I honestly thought my eyes were deceiving me. It was like this ray of sunshine in front of me. Is that Claire? And obviously, it was quite a straight bit of canal, so we were kind of walking towards each other for a while. I'm like, is it? It was fantastic.
It's great support, isn't it?
It is, and we better mention friend of the pod, Mike Barton, as well.
Merchy Mike,
who was also on that day. And I know he would have been on tonight, but he's busy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he basically carried me home, as the lyric was. He took us to the end. So he walked about 14 miles that day.
Yeah, I think I left you when you got down to single figures because obviously I had to walk back to my car and do it kind of a bit in reverse. So I think you were down to single figures of miles to go when I left you too. Yes.
So Mike was a real help, and Helena as well. They both let me stay over at theirs the night that I finished. So that was amazing support as well.
And there are other sort of Marillion flavoured stories in the book, aren't there? That you wearing a StillMarillion t-shirt and strike up a conversation with a fellow fan randomly.
Very bizarre. That was the second day, wasn't it? So my good friend StillMarillion, who get a credit in the book largely for, I don't know if we're going to go through the lyrics at some point, but their contributions to me getting into misplaced childhood, really. So I wanted to wear their t-shirt, and I'm wearing it at breakfast in the hotel, and guy on the table next to me says, I quite like Marillion. So we're just generally chatting about Marillion, because we do that, don't we, as Marillion fans? You spot another Marillion fan, and you just think you're friends with every Marillion fan. And it turned out he was going home from a holiday back to my hometown in Essex, and I was in his. It was just all really bizarre. It was like, how does that happen? It's very, very strange.
Yeah, that's just one of the stories in the book. I mean, there's a lot of those. You can tell that you've got a background in blogging because the book reads. It's an easy read, and I don't mean that.
Oh yeah, it's a very easy read, and
I mean that in a derogatory way. It's a really interesting and easy read. Lee and Claire, what's your sort of background in writing?
None.
Okay, it doesn't show. It doesn't show. It flows in the same way that Felicity's chapters do.
I think it was one of those other really nice when Felicity asked me if I would do it. And I immediately was like, yes. And private was like, oh, God, because I couldn't remember that. I normally express myself through my photography. I haven't actually physically written anything outside of Facebook status updates or anything. So trying to get it down in paper and the reasons for it, because it was, as I said in the book, it's quite layered. It was that striking a chord, with what someone was doing, that kind of post-lockdown when we're all maybe getting a bit older, and it's harder to motivate ourselves and think about what it is that we really do want to do. And then also trying to capture, without dwelling on it, the fact that, that bit about, when losses and actually taking the time and seizing the moment without making it sound too cliched. But I guess it was all those sorts of things. So I think once I had that chance to actually sort of physically kind of get it out of my head exactly why I did it, and got Chris to have a look at it and stuff, and then it just did then afterwards sort of flow, because I think it was quite from the heart. It wasn't just about that bit about what Felicity. I think it was that reflection of actually what she was doing meant to me, but also that reconnection with someone again. We'd come out of lockdown, for various reasons. Chris and I have hardly seen anyone for a long time pre that because of our commitment. So actually that genuine connection and being able to surprise someone, and it'd be a good surprise, actually I guess meant it was easier to write. There was a lot sort of behind it, and it was just trying to make sure it was the right length. So it was a good challenge.
It was perfect. It was great.
Thank you.
Mine was a little bit more schizophrenic, because if anybody's ever met me on a night out, I'm definitely one of the jokers. I'm not the court jester. We all know who that is. But I do like to have a laugh. But in work and the rest of life, I'm quite serious. And it's all about detail, and it's all about nuance, analysis, and all that sort of stuff. So it kind of struck me a little bit when I read the book how different my style of writing was to Felicity's. And I thought it made a nice contrast.
Absolutely.
Considering I was asked for a couple of 100 words, and I ended up waffling on for quite a while.
It's good. It bumped up my word count. I wanted to get it over 30,000 words. I needed it.
Yeah, I think
26,000 of them are Lee. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, you've only seen the edited version, John. So it was. I don't know. The way that I looked at it was that Phyllis asked me for my perspective on it. So it was more about how I was trying to motivate her to keep going.
Yeah.
There was a section when we were on the other side of Burnley, and I pointed over at a hill, and I said, "All right, I live over that hill." But I couldn't tell Felicity that the canal headed in the opposite direction, and then went perpendicular before coming back to it.
We're going at three quarters of a circle to get round.
Yeah, so I'm trying to motivate Felicity by saying, "All right, well, that's what that is. That's what that is. That's what that is," and all that. And it was just to try and keep it going. And funnily enough, the sun came out around then, for the first time, and I was thinking,
first time that day for sure.
Yeah, and I was thinking, all right, I can stop waffling now, because she'll cheer up a little bit, because it's not chucking it down and it's getting a little bit warmer.
I think I was doing nerdy bird watching. So I think
Lee was doing nerdy bird watching
Excellent.
as well. So
good.
There was lots of nerdy bird watching going on.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you get different things, and I think one of the beauties of the canal is that it's a world away from the road that might be 50 yards away from it, that So who knew there were so many herons?
I know. Tons of them.
Because normally you see one and it's like, wow, look at the size of that thing. But I'm sure by the end of it, Felicity was thinking, do I roast it or grill it?
I wouldn't dare break my arm. But there were quite a lot of them, I think, on the 5th day when I was walking kind of from Chorley to Burscough, through the walk through Wigan, or out the other side of Wigan. There seemed to be quite a lot there as well.
Yeah,
that's one of my favourite bits of the canal, is that sort of through Parbold and Gathurst.
It was nice.
But where it goes under the M6 near the Heinz factory. I really like that section.
Do you want
There
to
were
talk
lots of sections where I thought this would be a really nice walk if I wasn't absolutely exhausted and soaked to the skin and just wanted to be in my bed. So there's a weird thing where I'd actually quite like to go back and walk quite a lot of it, but in
In the
smaller
summer. In the summer
on
when it's
nicer
nice.
days. Yeah.
I mean, I was reading the book. The what I'm surprised by is the attention to detail, the sort of the small details of elements of the walk. How did you capture those at the time, or was it just you looking back at the end of each day?
I think I made little notes each day, so just bullet point notes in my phone. I also, one of the most useful things in hindsight was every morning I went live on Facebook and talked about the previous day, and they were really good references. And actually, it's very well, I don't know if it is a surprise. I kind of liken it to childbirth, not that I've given birth, but that forgetting how painful something was probably fairly quickly after something happened. And so I think I finished the writing of the book about 3 months after. So the key parts of the book, i.e. the actual story of the walk, I'd done by the end of the year. So the walk was September and I'd finished that by the end of the year. So I had written it pretty quickly afterwards. It was just the adding everything else in that took a year and a half. But those Facebook Lives really reminded me how difficult it was. And I like putting those little details in because they're the things that you forget. And whenever I'm writing my travel blogs, it is always those little details that you go back and read and you think, that was really important at the time, but now I'd completely forgotten it had happened. So I think I think that must just partly be my style of writing is to include.
It gives it the colour and it makes it more personable and relatable, I think.
I hope so.
It does.
I mean, it is. A lot of people have said how easy it is to read, and a lot of people have commented that they're not really readers, but they've got through it really quickly. And yes, I do take that as a compliment. I don't take that as a disparaging in any way. I think it's nice because I do go into some philosophy as well, and I like to write that sort of in ways that is easy to digest.
You're not tempted to do an audio version?
Someone has. So I did a talk about the book at a local library, and there was a blind lady, sorry, not a deaf person, obviously, a blind lady there. And she said, I'd really like to hear the book.
Get Jane Horrocks to do it.
So I don't know, maybe I need to do a podcast in order to record it. That's the way you record a book, isn't it, nowadays? You do it
if you're Steve Hogarth, it is, yeah.
Or Mark Kelly.
Oh, Mark Kelly, yeah, true.
I'm not sure if Steve Rothery's going to be able to do photos on a podcast, but
we'll find out soon, won't we? Yeah.
But yeah, so I might do it as an audio book. I've got to think about how much time that might take and how many people might want it. So,
and you've obviously, if you do an audio book, you've obviously got to get your guests on, haven't you?
I have got plans for a podcast, but for something completely different.
Oh, okay.
But it's only vague plans at the moment, so watch this space on that one.
Is it the one you've talked to us about?
It's slightly different, so it will be based in politics.
Right.
I'm washing my hair that day.
Yeah, you're not invited.
Do you want to talk about some of the lyrics that you've picked for the chapters and how they relate to the parts of the walk?
Yeah, can do. I mean, I wrote these. I've just gone through on my Facebook page because I did do posts about each of these back when the book launched and just kind of remind myself on some of them. Like I say, some of them were really, really obvious. Some of them I did have to do a bit digging about, and some of them might be a little bit tenuous. I don't know. I do have a friend who's got a Marillion lyrics search engine where you can put any word in and it gives you all the lyrics that contain that word. Say you write a Marillion quiz without saying you write a Marillion quiz, right?
Yeah.
So I guess and also the other thing that I am going to do, I've been saying I'm going to do this for a while, and this will provoke me to do it. I will do a Spotify playlist of all these as well, and I'll put some of the written stuff into a blog that you can link into. So I did 80 days. How many people can you love is the thank you page, which there's a weird thing when you write a book and it's your first book, you want to thank everyone who's ever been in your life ever. And I had to stop myself from doing that, from it being a full Oscar speech. But there's quite a few of our Marillion friends in those thank yous as well.
There are, yeah.
I'll mention Sue Beasy, who did the proofreading for the book as well. So thank you to Sue as well. I listed all the lyrics and used the lyric, adding my Dulcine to your brilliant words, which felt like the perfect line, because that's obviously H saying, I'm not as good as Leonard Cohen. You know, I'm kind of taking Leonard Cohen's words and making a bit of a hash of them. And I guess that's sort of how I felt. I felt like I'm now adding a Dulcine to H and Fish's words by using them in this book. I sometimes feel that every time I talk about the lyrics, and I talk about the lyrics a lot. Go. It only takes a fraction of a second to turn your life upside down, wide awake on the edge of the world. This was the planning chapter. And I love this song. This is the mantra to me. It only takes a fraction of a second to turn your life upside down. I tell myself that a lot. So this kind of the genesis of the idea and how all those fractions of seconds turned life upside down. So when I got the train to Leeds to start the walk, I don't think we actually mentioned that it was the Leeds-Liverpool canal. I've got a sense that I might have missed that little bit of information for
Possibly.
anyone who's listening. So we started in Leeds and walked to Liverpool. And I used Map of the World because I found myself in Preston on a Saturday night, all dressed up in my walking gear, and everyone else is on a night in the town. So that idea of watching the people on the street, you know, and seeing them in a completely different guise to why I was there. But also that hiding the pain away. Strange how much pain you can hide away beneath a well-cut suit. And then it ends, this is the day she walks away. And that was the day that I was going to the walk. The first leg of the walk was be hard on yourself. And I talk about my mantra for life, which is living a satisfied life you don't need to escape from. And be hard on yourself very much runs along those lines of not always wanting and needing, not always being on that hedonic treadmill of life. And I also include the lyric, don't talk to me of speed, acceleration never did you any good, because I wasn't going very fast. You know, so a lot of these lyrics had multi-function.
Yeah.
Out of this world was day 2. What the hell do we want? Is it only to go when our body has gone? A better way than the herds sing a different song. So this is where we had this encounter with the Marillion fan. And I talk a bit about us striving to reach goals. There's a bit of talk about goal setting and breaking goals down into smaller parts. Day 3 was the bad day, was the terrible day. So we've kind of mentioned it. It rained pretty much solidly all day on day 3. It was just horrendous, and
proper Pennine rain as well.
Proper rain. Like, we stopped the first point where Lee met me. I got in his car, I took my boots off, and I do wish we'd filmed it, but it would have involved you being outside in the rain filming it. But I literally poured water out of my boots. It was terrible. And so I picked There's No Such Thing as an Easy Ride. There's no such thing as a place to hide. There's no such thing as a perfect day. Because it wasn't an easy ride and there was no place to hide and it was not a perfect day. So it was absolutely brutal that day.
Can I just say for the record that I didn't just park the car and wait for her.
No.
I got there a little bit early and I trekked a couple of miles into Yorkshire to meet her further down.
You managed to make it into Yorkshire.
Well, it's not in the south, is it?
Get away with. So day 4, which is kind of when I was walking from Leeds to my house. So I got to stay in my own bed that night, and I used Woke Up with angels that come when all is lost. In golden light of dead of night, they take you home, because I had my angels. And I also had help from a work colleague that day, literally walked me to more or less to my front door that day. So my angels took me home that day. And I could sleep in my own bed. Day 5 was a day when I had no other company, so I used Somewhere Else, which, as someone who lives away from their family and don't have a huge number of friends that live locally, everyone I love lives somewhere else, and I have time to look at myself and I have seen enough is a really, it's a lyric that hits me hard. And I used a couple of phone calls to home that day, but it was that sense of actually feeling quite alone that day. Day 6, should I tell our story about Sky Above the Rain, Mezza?
You can do.
With a bit, Sky Above the Rain makes me cry without fail.
Just a bit.
Every time. The original version, and oddly enough, there must be something about the key change that doesn't quite hit home in the same way. And the With Friends version doesn't quite hit me in the same way. But the end section has always made me cry. And I think it was the Marillion weekend in Leicester in 2019.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Which was a couple of years after my marriage had broken down, and they played that song, and it, like I say, it's normally the end section, but I started crying from the moment it started, and I didn't even realize I must have been noisy crying, right?
I can't remember.
You had quiet crying. I must have been noisy crying because a stranger,
shoulders were going. Definitely.
Someone I didn't know passed me a tissue within about the first 30 seconds of the song. And then Mezza offered me basically a shoulder to cry on. And I think you were literally holding me off the ground, because I would have collapsed into a heap on the ground if he hadn't been there to hold me up. So that's a bit of my history with this song. And it is that section that I quote in the book, the heading west and climbing in a place the sun never stops shining, the rain's below us, because the whole time I was heading west, and we did actually get sunshine and the rain stopped. So yeah, that's why I picked that one. And then the kind of finishing chapters where I'm assessing where my life goes after the walk, and where I made my decision that I want to go into politics, that I would like a career in politics. And that's where these next 3 lyrics all come together. So there's Childhood's End, and there's a bit of a story with this as well. Like I say, StillMarillion get their credit for this, because I hated this song. I absolutely despised Childhood's End. I was never a big fan of Misplaced Childhood at all. And I just thought this was twee and cheesy nonsense for many, many years. But going to see, I think over the years, I must have seen StillMarillion play this song more than I've listened to it on the record. And they've basically just beaten me down about it eventually. So I mentioned to Martin how much I hated the song, and he always gives he if you see him see me in the audience when they play it, he'll give me a little bit of a nod, because I think he knows that this lyric is really relevant to me. So there were two lyrics I could have picked for this. In the end, I went for "It's me I see, I can do anything, I'm still the child," because the only thing misplaced was direction, and I found direction, there is no childhood's end. And I love that idea now of, it's kind of a sister song to See It Like a Baby, isn't it? Of approaching things with that childlike joy and naivety, and thinking, well, just because I'm 48 years old, that doesn't mean I can't rethink my life. I can't change things. I can't have a new passion in my life. I can't have a new direction. And the other lyric was, "You found the leading light of destiny burning in the ashes of your memory. You want to change the world." Well, I've always said I want to change the world. So all of a sudden, this song that I hated for years has become one of the most relevant Marillion songs in my life. And like I say, I've got to thank StillMarillion for bringing that song to life for me. So I then include Neverland. I want to be someone who someone will want to be. I have that tattooed on my foot. And that's, again, a bit of a mantra for me, to be someone who someone would want to be. And then I end with Happiness is the Road. The greatest blessing that we have is the dawn of each new day, a chance to finish what we started and made a mess of yesterday, which again is quite a mantra for me. It's like, we can always have another go at things, or that same kind of thing of restarting, not feeling like we always have to tread the same path for the whole of our lives. And the idea of change, you know, we can always change. And us as humans, I talk in that chapter quite a lot about how human beings do change, and we should change. We learn and we grow and we develop as human beings, and we should embrace that, because that's how we learn and grow and develop as a society. So these are words that just have, like I say, they're in me, and they've helped shape my view of the world. You can't listen to Fugazi at 8 years old and it not have an impact.
It's child cruelty, I think you'll find, but yeah.
You know, I mean, it's I wonder why I'm a socialist. I mean, it's all in there, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the thing that we haven't touched upon, and does run throughout the book, and there's a chapter at the back, is there's quite a lot of historical points as well about the canal in the book.
Yeah, that was the other thing to bring in. So what the process of writing it, like I say, I started with the actual putting down what had happened. Then I went in and filled in the philosophical stuff. Lots of things that I've learned about the science of happiness and philosophy and psychology and things like that. But the canal is a personality on, you know, it's a character of the book as well. And I think it was really important to have that context of the canal being a man-made object. Like Lee mentioned before about, you have this really beautiful waterway that's right near motorways and major trunk roads, and sometimes railway lines as well. And I thought it was really important to have that sense of where the canal came from, why it existed, how short it was actually in really good use for. You know, it took them 50 years to build the thing, and then within another 100 years it was more or less unrequired.
Yeah.
You know, it was obsolete. Exactly. It had been superseded by the trains and then by road transport. So I thought that context was really important, and I added a kind of timeline history at the back as well.
Yeah, it's again, it's another sort of strand of the book. It works on 3 or 4 different levels. It's really interesting. Where can people get a copy of this book, Felicity?
So I mean, the easiest way, if you don't mind tax dodgers, is you can just put my name into Amazon, and it's available on either in print or in Kindle there. I have quite a unique name. I think I'm literally the only person in the world called Felicity Pryke, so I'm fairly easy to find. My website is findingfelicity.co.uk, and that's where you'll find the link to the book. If you buy it direct from me, I will sign it and dedicate it to you. I still owe Craig a signed copy as well, because he's only got an e-copy at the moment.
Read it twice.
Well, good. I think that, oh no, you haven't got a KDP copy, so that doesn't count for my optics. But, and if anyone has read it, if you can go on Amazon and give me a 5-star review, that would be appreciated as well.
It's worth
5
saying there's
stars
some of your blog posts on your website as well, isn't there?
Yes, yeah. So I've got my full blog on there. I did write a blog about the Marillion community quite a few years ago. I think it was after the first post-lockdown convention, when we all, I think it was Leicester in 22, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Was it 2022 when we all went back to Leicester?
Think so.
So I kind of wrote something then about the Marillion community. But yeah, I'll probably go into a bit more detail about some of the philosophy and psychology that I talk about in the book as well. And I will, before this goes out, there will be a blog that talks about each of those lyrics as well.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, speaking of Amazon reviews, there is one Amazon review which I've got a question about, which has got 1 star from somebody called Missy, who was complaining about not getting fed for 24 hours because somebody'd forgotten all to do with this walk.
I'd miscommunicated with my cat sitter which days she had to come and feed the cat. So the cat got left unfed for a whole 24 hours. Yeah, I think she's forgiven me since then. But the way that she likes walking across my keyboard, I wouldn't be surprised if she had managed to write an Amazon review at some point.
Yeah, they don't forget these things, you
know. No.
You are 100% on Amazon at the minute, all 5-star reviews. So
I know. So please don't leave me a 4-star review.
Craig doing his bit for the feline community there.
It's
cat wrangler of the podcast.
Yeah, anything less than 5 stars doesn't count nowadays, does it?
That's it.
And there is a Kindle version as well, isn't there?
Yes. Yeah. And
You...
maybe I'll have a think about the audiobook.
You need to. You're very articulate, so it did go down really well.
I think when I read the chapter at the book talk I did at the library, and they said this lady had said she liked the way I said it. So yeah, it'll have to be me. I won't be doing an AI vocal of it, that's for sure. It's not that long a book. It can't take me that long to do, right?
No. You could do a weekly podcast about it, though.
Yeah, it would only be like a month's worth, though, I think. 2 months. I don't think I'd make it to 150 episodes doing that.
The less said about that, the better, I think. Claire, have you now you guys have reconnected, have you seen much of each other since then?
Felicity's taxi service for when it was probably the last time. Was it Fish?
It was Fish
in
last
Manchester,
year, yeah.
Wasn't it? Yes, our impromptu taxi journey back to Chorley for you.
It was because I was enjoying your company so much and we were chatting that I missed my last train, basically.
Nice deflection of blame there. I like that. I did say to you, if you did a last-minute job to see StillMarillion in Glasgow, I wasn't coming to Glasgow to pick you up that time.
No, I did then go. I mean, as someone who's been, I suppose everyone's been hit and miss with Fish, haven't they? And those gigs were amazing. And
yeah,
we've always been there.
I know you've always been there, but
through the really bad gigs, we were there.
Exactly.
We were still there.
You've been to a few. I've been to a few Bad Fish gigs as well, but those ones were special.
They were amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
I do remember. I think it was about 20 of us in Bradford one year. I think Scattering Crows had just come out.
Yes.
That was. Were you there? I was at uni there.
And he recorded a live album at that. There's a live album from that gig.
Oh, I remember that one, and the Birdwell Club here in Barnsley as well.
Yeah. There were some memorable for all the wrong reasons gigs, weren't there? Yeah. And Lee, the White Rose Tavern, what's occurring with it now? You have alluded to this before we started recording. So, what's the latest on the White Rose Tavern?
Well, the White Rose Tavern's gone from being a virtual den of debauchery on a Friday night to we now actually meet up more in person now, because if anybody doesn't know about it, we were all Marillion fans that were missing going to gigs in lockdown. But there was like an unwritten rule that nobody ever got to speak about Marillion in it. Because it would have got boring. So
Steady? What are you saying?
No, because it would have developed into arguments. There were some personalities in there that like to speak more than others, I think.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Who could that be?
We won't mention any names. But because we only really spoke about Marillion after lockdown had finished, when things were starting to get organised again, and it was about meeting up for the Marillion gigs. But we all learned so much about each other, and all the other music that we like as well. So yeah, the Marillion connection's still there. The StillMarillion connection's still there. But we go to all sorts of other gigs now, and because there's literally people from Canada and the US, and then all the way across the UK, there's always something happening that somebody else is interested in doing. So there's a member from near Halifax, a little place that he pronounces differently to me. I call it Sowerby, but apparently that's wrong. And obviously, with the rise of the Peace Hall, that's almost become a meeting point for the tavern. On that, obviously, this isn't going out for another couple of weeks, but I think a few of us today will book for public service broadcasting.
Yeah, see there.
And all that sort of thing. There's a lot of us going to Pompeii.
Yeah.
Hammersmith, obviously. There'll be plenty of us there for that. And then
we've just been organising to see StillMarillion in Blackpool.
Yeah, that's August.
StillMarillion are playing 2 nights in Blackpool. So White Rose Tavern goes to Blackpool. What could go wrong?
Oh, might have to see if we make it to that one.
It would involve the police, I've no doubt.
But we've got, we've done a few things like we all went to Lisbon together. We all did Padua last year together, varying groups of us. So it's basically runs out of a Facebook group now, and it's just who fancies going to these gigs, and then we make plans, and sometimes those plans escalate to full-blown holidays. So,
but there's lots of really good things come out of it as well. I mean, there's a lady who lives down near Cambridge, and I can't remember what the gig was. Was it StillMarillion or Marillion in Cambridge? I think it must have been StillMarillion. And she invited everybody to stop at a house. And then a few days before it was going off, she kind of initiated a call and said, "Who's going to get here first?" And our dear departed friend Mr. Greenwood said, "Well, I'm going to get there on the day before, if that's all right." And she said, "All right, well, I'll show my neighbour your picture." And when he said why, she said, "Oh, I'm going on holiday. I'm going to leave her the key for everybody."
Wow.
So literally gave up a house for everybody to stop in. And like everybody stayed with everybody else.
Yeah.
But it means that we're ending up spending more money on gigs because we're not having to spend all the money on hotels anymore, which has got to be a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, like so for Pompeii, we've modified the White Rose Tavern flag.
The White Rose of Yorkshire.
Yeah, which I always take so I took a Lancashire one down to Cornwall for the gig last summer. But it got morphed by somebody that knows a little bit about special effects and AI. And he turned a picture of me pointing at a Lancashire flag that I pinned to the side of his mobile home and turned it into a Yorkshire flag with me dressed as Freddie Mercury, bending down and kissing the flag, wearing that yellow jacket and the white trousers. But we've moved on from that a little bit. So we've created a White Rose Tavern flag, which is the white rose in the middle, obviously, laurel wreath around it. And instead of an eagle on top, like the Romans would have done, we've gone full Yorkshire and we've put Kez on top of it.
As you should. As you should.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, it's great to hear that the White Rose Tavern is going from strength to strength. And if you're at any gigs, any Marillion related gigs in the next 12 months, just keep an eye out because they're going to get you. That's the message, isn't it? They're going to get
What's the rule about the White Rose Tavern? You don't talk about the White Rose Tavern.
But also a tavern idea is a good idea.
Yeah. No, it feels strange me and Felicity talking about the White Rose Tavern because obviously we're the only Red Rose members in it.
I know.
Yeah,
Clearly they'll let anyone in.
A tavern idea is a good idea unless the tavern idea is walking 127 miles in 6 days.
It seems to have worked out for the best, though, doesn't it?
Well, John, you came to that stag party in York that was however many months after the wedding. That's kind of like a tavern idea.
Yeah. It was a jolly good weekend. It was too.
Yeah. I still don't know why you put QVC on the telly outside in the pub beer garden where they were selling bedding at 2:00 in the morning.
Someone will bought it, Lee. Just because it wasn't you.
It definitely wasn't me. But
Must
I've got a photo of you paying attention to it.
You will have, yeah. By that point, I think I would just staring at anything, yeah. But I don't think that's what we're here to talk about, so we'll just wrap up at that point. Thank you very much, Felicity, for talking to us about your book.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's and like we said, all the profits from the book go to charity. So I would love to sell some more books.
It's a great read. It really is. And thank you to Claire for coming and supporting.
No, lovely to catch up with you all again.
Nice to see you. Thank you. And to Lee.
This is my token gesture. You won't be seeing me again ever.
He'll be back. He'll be back, listeners. Even if it's roving reporter Barnsley Wood capturing something he's doing at a White Rose Tavern event. Thank you, of course, to my podcast other half, Sir Craig of Houston.
Very thank you.
All that remains to be said is it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Take care.
Go on, Flick, you do it.
Stay alive.
Yay! Thanks for listening to Planet Marzipan Podcast. Please like and subscribe from whichever platform you get your podcasts from. You can contact us at planetmarzipanpodcast@gmail.com and check out Marillion.com, fishmusic.scot for all the good stuff.